Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is Abbas, and today I'm gonna react to an amazing video. It is an international video from USA. It is like how America became a superpower. It's not related to like our region, but it is like there must be something to learn about. So that is why I just decided to watch it because I already was planning to watch such videos. So I just said that okay, I thought let's just react to it. So let's watch it together. Three, two, one, go.
The modern United States is the most powerful country in human history, with over 800 military bases and 37%
800.
of global military spending.
What
The US has become the leader of a vast, interconnected global system that has helped usher in an era of unprecedented prosperity and low levels of conflict. To understand America's position in the world, and why it's so pivotal for world politics as we know it, you have to go back to the country's founding, back to when America wasn't a global power in any sense of the word. During the first 70 years of its existence, the United States expanded in both territory and influence in North America, eventually reaching the Pacific Ocean, in a wave of expansionism that resulted in the wholesale slaughter of the indigenous people who populated.
Yeah, that is what they do everywhere.
Early Americans were deeply divided as to whether the country should expand beyond the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. This became a major debate after the Civil War, when some leaders, like post-war Secretary of State Seward, argued that America should push to become a global power. Seward succeeded in pushing a plan to purchase Alaska from Russia, but his attempts to buy Greenland and Iceland,
They
as well
bought.
as annexed territory in the Caribbean, were all blocked by Congress. That's because some Americans, including many on Capitol Hill, had a strong anti-imperialist bent. These people worried about America getting more involved in global politics, as well as having to integrate populations from quote-unquote inferior races. And this opposition implied major checks on the imperialist urge to expand. But something was happening in the
Inferior races, what the
1800s that
hell?
would change the debate about American expansionism. The Industrial Revolution produced explosive economic growth, and the bigger U.S. economy required a more centralized state and bureaucracy to manage the growing economy. Power became concentrated in the federal government, making it easier for expansionist presidents, like William McKinley, to unilaterally push American influence abroad. The key turning point came in 1898, when President McKinley dragged the country into war with Spain over Cuba, despite some intense domestic opposition. The rising United States easily defeated the moribund Spanish Empire, acquiring Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines in the process. Over the next 2 years, the U.S. would annex the Kingdom of Hawaii, Wake Island, and American Samoa. A few years later, the U.S. took control of the Panama Canal Zone and sent troops to occupy the Dominican Republic. It also purchased the American Virgin Islands. This period of rapid acquisition of far-flung territories put the U.S. on the map as a truly global power. During this time, America also began using its influence to protect its growing commercial and military interests abroad, installing pro-American regimes in places like Nicaragua, and playing a major role in international diplomacy regarding the Western presence in China. World War I showed just how much America's influence had grown. Not only was American intervention a decisive factor in the war's end, but President Wilson attended the Paris Peace Conference, which ended the war, and attempted to set the terms of the peace. He spearheaded America's most ambitious foreign policy initiative yet, an international organization called the League of Nations, designed to promote peace and cooperation globally. The League, a wholesale effort to remake global politics, showed just how ambitious American foreign policy had become. Yet isolationism was still a major force in the United States. Congress blocked the United States from joining the League of Nations, dooming Wilson's project.
Oh,
During the Great Depression and the rise of Hitler, the US was much more focused on its own region than on European affairs. Ultimately, America's ever-growing entanglements abroad made it impossible for it to stay out of global affairs entirely. In East Asia, the growing Japanese Empire posed a direct threat to American possessions and troops, bringing the United States and Japan into conflict. This culminated in the Pearl Harbor attack, bringing the United States into World War II. World War II would transform America's global presence forever. The United States was the only major power to avoid economic ruin during the war, and it was the sole country equipped with atomic weapons. As such, it was in a unique position to set the terms of the peace, and, with the aim of preventing another war in mind, it took advantage. The most famous example of this is the creation of the United Nations. The UN Charter set up a system of international law prohibiting wars of conquest, like the ones waged by the Nazis and the Japanese. It also served as a forum in which the international community could weigh in on disputes and help resolve them. This way, the Americans hoped, great powers could resolve their differences through compromise and law rather than war. But while the UN is the
United
most
Nations
famous
is
of peaceful
just
institutions, it isn't the only
bro.
one.
You cannot
730
say
delegates
that
from
like
all
United
44
Nations is
allied
working.
nations came together in a small vacation haven in New Hampshire. Their goal? To establish a global financial system that would prevent another Great Depression and World War. The resulting agreement, called the Bretton Woods
Groundworks.
Agreement, ultimately became the backbone of the global financial system,
To control the
resulting in the
resources
World
and
Bank and the
everything.
International
This
Monetary
is
Fund.
crazy.
By creating these institutions, the United States committed itself to being
This
deeply
is
involved in the world's
crazy,
problems.
man.
The issue, though, is that the world's second largest power, the Soviet Union, saw things differently. World War II had made allies out of the democratic West and communist East in the fight against Hitler, but that couldn't last. The United States saw Soviet expansion in Eastern Europe and elsewhere as a direct threat to its vision of a free trading, democratic world.
To a substantial degree, in one form or another, socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth, and the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
Fearful of Soviet intentions towards Western Europe, the US and other European nations created the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a military alliance meant to stop Russia from invading other countries in Europe. Globally, the US committed to a strategy called containment, so called because it was aimed at containing the spread of communism everywhere on the globe.
They almost got a lot
This new
of
global struggle
countries,
meant that
man.
the US had to exert influence everywhere, all the time. Instead of disbanding the massive military machine created for World War II, the wheels mostly kept turning. This had two main results. First, the US was pulled into unlikely alliances with countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and South Korea, seeing each of them as bulwarks against communist influence in their region. Secondly, the US began intervening, often secretly, in dozens of countries to contain Soviet influence. Sometimes this meant propping up sympathetic dictators, like in Iran. Other times, it meant supplying rebels with arms and money, like in Afghanistan in 1979 and Nicaragua in 1985. Over the course of the Cold War, the US intervened in hundreds of disputes around the globe, ending up with a complicated set of alliances, tensions, and relationships in basically every corner of the earth. After the Berlin Wall fell, the US could have withdrawn from the system, severing ties with its allies and drawing down the size of its military. And while the US did decrease military spending, much of the military infrastructure and alliances from the Cold War remained. Presidents George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton decided that it was in both America and the world's interests for the United States, now the sole superpower on Earth, to continue actively managing global affairs.
We should be, and
When
we
you
must
just
be
slap them in the face, they become
NATO, created
peacemakers
solely as a tool for countering the
suddenly.
Soviet Union, stayed together and even expanded, a way of keeping European nations united in the absence of the Soviet threat. Washington's support for countries like Israel and Japan stayed intact, ostensibly as a means of preventing war in their respective regions. The global system of alliances and institutions created to keep the peace during the Cold War became permanent, as did the American military and political commitments necessary to keep them running. This system remains in operation today, and no leading American politician since the Cold War seriously called for dismantling it. Except, perhaps, for Donald Trump. Trump has said contradictory things about these commitments, but he's consistently argued that American allies are not paying the US enough for its protection, and questioned the value of free trade. That calls NATO and even the World Trade Organization into question.
At some point, we have to say, you know what? We're better off if Japan protects itself against
No.
this maniac in North Korea. We're better off, frankly, if South Korea is going to start to protect itself.
Saudi Arabia,
we have
nuclear
to,
weapons?
Saudi Arabia, absolutely.
This is a sharp divergence from the consensus that has dominated
Exactly.
US
Trump
foreign
is
policy
right,
since
man. Like,
1945.
just do your
It's somewhat
own
closer
shit.
to the
Focus on
isolation
your
that
own
came
stuff. You
before
have
it.
killed enough people
So will President
already.
Trump act on some of candidate Trump's ideas and revert to
This is
decades-long
crazy, man.
institution building and alliances? We'll find out soon enough.
Anyway, it finished. The video finished. The thing is that, like, first of all, whenever you're watching any video, you just have to go with zero assumptions, like pre-assumptions, so you can just understand it better. Because if you are not ready to accept the information and absorb the information, then you are here to not learn anything. So I try my best, but the thing is that they already have done enough damage to the world, and now being controlled by Israel and Jewish people, especially, like every department of USA, and you can see on the Twitter and everywhere, people are like local people and the people who are influencers, the fighters, like they're fighting on their own scale, on their own level, but still, like the nation like America is also, in a position to just being controlled by politicians and the institutions, like the the institutions who are just out of their mind. They just doing whatever they want to anybody. And what was this League of Nations and United Nations, especially United Nations these days? If you see them, there are a lot of people, they spend a lot of money to get together in America, and then they just do like on everything what like Joe Biden and shit. Like they just doing all this stuff for, like, they just getting together for nothing. There is no result. And all the leaders who should be in a power position, who should be there, they are not, because America has just outpowered them with the money and with the, like, just local corrupt institutions they have paid to, just a system, to militaries, and just to, get the main deserving parties out of power, and just getting the people who don't deserve the power, they just got them into power. So this is already crazy situation. And the thing is that they're gonna pay back. History does not forget anybody, and does not let to forget anyone about what have they done. And it's like, these days you see people traveling from other countries, like taking asylum, immigration, and like all that stupid stuff in Europe and all that, which is sad. I don't like it, because if you just mix everybody in every country, then where is the uniqueness of any culture? Like recently, when I used to, like, not used to, I didn't visit many times. I visited Europe like a lot of time ago, like let's say 2016, like let's say 8 years ago, and it was little bit different as compared to now. Now I'm seeing like the footages and everywhere videos, like everybody is everywhere, just Africans and Asians and like people from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and everybody is just there. And they just, they doing bad stuff and killing the local culture, and just, pooping on the train stations, getting caught, fighting, like these black people just fighting everywhere, on airports, on train stations, and everywhere. And they just, that there is all in schools like this. They put them like, can you imagine, like Europe is like, I am not into any type of complex, but the thing is that I like the European people, because they have already, like, every time they have created a type of culture. Wherever they live, they make it clean, they make it good, they develop a country, they develop a structure, society, which they are, of course they are afraid to lose when other cultures just come in and just getting in. So this is it. Anyway, let's not talk more about it, and let's finish the video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. See you in next video.